in order to be a better artist, and before we learn different skills and techniques, we first have to talk about our intention. Intention is why we do something. But I'm not asking you to answer some lofty question about what art is or why you make it. In fact, I'm not sure those questions can ever be answered. What the important question is what is the power of art? It is easy to understand the power of other technologies like engineering. If I'm an engineer, I could use my skills to make a bridge. A bridge connects two places. If I'm a doctor, I could use my skills to heal the human body. The intention of these two disciplines creates a result that is very useful for all of mankind. The power of medicine is to heal the human body. The power of engineering is to extend the powers of man, in a sense, to make us faster, see farther, speed up our communications, etc., etc. So what is the power of art? Einstein said that the imagination is more important than intellect. So, as an experiment, let's just entertain ourselves. How can the artist be more powerful than the engineer or doctor? I want to ask that question of ourselves right now. Why did the ancient Greeks pray to the muses? When was the last time many of us looked up at the clouds and asked the heavens to give us the power of art making? It's a funny thought, isn't it? But people have certainly done it before. What is this power? Before I give you my answer, I first want to say what I think Einstein was getting at. Imagination is more important than intellect because imagination dreams up the ideas that the intellect toils with first. For example, before the submarine was invented, Jules Verne wrote about one in his science fiction story, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Now, could Jules Verne ever constructed himself a submarine? Was he an engineer? Probably not. I don't think so. But at the same time, in a kind of a finer type of software engineering, he created an idea and put it forth for other human minds to see. Then someone like an engineer could take up that idea and actually create the physical, functional form of it. So, I believe the true power of art is not self-expression. As a collective of artists all around the world, I think we're really lacking in this knowledge that the true power of art comes from its ability to create an effect in the mind of the viewer. I'll say it again. The true power of art is not self-expression. The true power of art comes from its ability to create an effect in the mind of the viewer. Let's break this down. Let's use comedy for example. A comic delivers a joke. How do we know we hear a good joke? We laugh with very little effort of our own. It's automatic. Let's use horror for example. How do we know a good scary movie? We become scared with very little effort of our own. As a viewer, my response is automatic. My body knows the truth. So the question becomes, how as visual artists do we affect a response in the mind of the viewer? This is a question I feel that a lot of us need to ask ourselves. In my podcast, Cut It Out, Collage and Papercraft Conversations, I spoke with Lance Letcher. Lance mentions that when people come to the gallery to view his work, they become frozen for a moment before each of his artworks. Lance even went so far as to measure the average time people stopped to revel in the work. Lance's work is extremely intricate. He said something like, I have them in that moment. For that moment, I have their attention. It's pretty intense. And I think if we look back at ourselves, we've all been there in front of other works of art, movies, poems, anything. Something grabbed us at one point and said, damn. We said, damn. How? How did somebody make this? So, how do we do this? With technical skill. Humans understand intricacy. And ladies and gentlemen, humans, they are our audience. Almost everybody could look at a work of art and say, wow, this must have taken forever to make. Look at all the pieces, the colors, elements. It looks so real. Or how did they do that? What doesn't everybody understand? Your avant-garde ideas and abstract feelings. Now, our challenge is, can we express these ideas and feelings in a way that people can understand, or at least trigger a response of wonder, revel, laughter, horror, etc.? So, I'm going to define visual art this way for myself in this instant. Visual art, the use of visual stimuli to create a physical response in the mind of the viewer. Now, does this mean someone needs to look at one of my collages and kick their leg or jump up and down? No, but I think on some level in our mind, things are squirting around in people's brains, and they stop and they go, oh my gosh, there's thoughts kicking around in their head. I consider that a physical response. So, if we want to use visual stimuli to create a physical response in the mind of the viewer, I believe we as artists need to pick a response that we want our viewer to experience. What do we want them to experience? What do we want them to feel? And can we do it in a way that the viewer is going to experience it despite their own will? A very funny joke will make us spit out our drink. A good scare will haunt us for years. A beautiful painting is something we always come back to. A powerful illusion like op art overrides our eyes and senses. Alan Moore, the author of The Watchmen and V for Vendetta, writes, if you want to horrify someone, first find out what horrifies you. So in order to elicit a response in others, we first have to look at what we respond to. So ask yourself, what works of art horrify you? What did you find beautiful? What made you awestruck when you were a little kid? What makes you weep? What fills you with rage? Now, take that and find the artist's writings and interviews who created those experiences for you. Did Stephen King horrify you? Well, he's got a book called On Writing, I think it's called, and Dance Macabre, where he explains how to write, how to scare people. Okay? Since we're talking about visual art, we want to find physical examples, the artists and their work. I'll give you my own. Bridget Riley, the op artist. For years, I was mystified by her work. How could somebody make a painting that literally fooled my eyes into thinking that her painting was moving like water or spinning like a spinning wheel? I couldn't figure it out, so I decided to learn from the master herself. I went to the library and found books where she herself discussed her technique and how she learned to paint. It turns out that Bridget Riley attributes a great deal to what she learned from studying and physically copying stroke for stroke the work of the famous pointillist Surreal. So, after I read that, and I went back to the library and found books that showed the sketches and studies of Surreal, as well as his paintings, and so goes the journey down the rabbit hole. If I were to want to continue to capture and control this illusory technique or this op art technique of Bridget Riley, I should copy her painting exactly mark for mark for mark until I actually physically reproduce the illusion. Now, is my job to then take that and say, hey, look, I did this and try to get into a gallery? No. It's the act of learning. Now I have the power of Bridget Riley, so to speak, and I could use it for my own artwork. So even if we look at Surreal and Bridget Riley, their work does not look the same at all. Two just two totally different universes. But the lesson was in there for Bridget Riley. And for us, the lesson is in both because we read Bridget Riley's writings. So, we're all still learning. We have homework to do. Find a work of art that you have a strong response to. Go to the public library and find the artist's writings. How did she make it? What did she do to practice? What does she say is important? After you read the writings, try to copy that work of art exactly as they made it, down to the very finest detail. You must look at the work of art like you are drinking it in with your eyeballs. This trains a deeper seeing that we need as artists to elicit a response in the minds of the viewer. Good luck, everyone. Let me know how it goes. Have a wonderful holiday season. Love you all.